about MyDestination App, where we are going to look at how this online tool works. And my name is Evgenia Generalova, and the Communications and Knowledge Manager for Child Protection Hub. And if you can hear me well, could you please let me know about this by writing something in the chat box below? Okay, good. So the connection works. That's good news. So I will give you a very brief overview of this platform in case for any of you it's the first time you're using Adobe Connect. So your microphones will be muted. So please, if you want to communicate, do so in writing. You can use the chat you're using right now for any comments, questions, etc. And you should pay attention to the polls. We already had one on how you learned about the webinar. Thank you for answering the question. And we will have at least one more at the end. If you lose sound at some point, please, first of all, make sure that your speaker icon on the top black bar is green. If it is green and you have still no sound, please let us know and we will take actions. And next to the speaker icon, you can see an icon of a man with a raised hand on the same black bar. Please feel free to use it to show any emotions, suggestions, requests, like to speak louder, softer, quicker, or anything similar. You can play with the options. And now I would like to introduce our speaker, and then I will give the floor to her. So we are very pleased to have Elisa Bucalini with us today, and she's a Destination Unknown campaign communication coordinator. And Elisa has a background in mass communication with a focus on international relations and anthropology. She's experienced in advocacy campaigns in the nonprofit sector and also in designing integrated communication solutions for mobile applications, web, and social media. And Elisa, I think the floor is yours now. Thank you.
Thank you for this presentation, Eugenia, and welcome to everybody. I'm very glad to present to you during this webinar organized by the Child App, MyDestination App. First of all, I would like to introduce MyDestination App by talking the framework in which the MyDestination App was developed. So it was developed in the framework of the Destination Unknown campaign. I hope you know about this campaign. It's led by Terre des Hommes, and actually it was launched in 2012 to protect children on the move. It runs actually projects all in 50 countries. We have 4 campaign members, and we are running projects in 10 regions. That's why also we have thought about developing an app to be used in projects in the field, in the framework of the Destination Unknown campaign. The Destination Unknown campaign operates so in the field, as I said, advocates for change policies and also raise awareness on the phenomenon of children on the move. Now, back to MyDestination App. As you see, kind of definition that I try to put on the description of the webinar, I call it a child-friendly tool designed for children on the move to visualize their story on a world map online. What's the story of this app? Actually, it was born as a call for action. Because the first target group of the Destination Unknown campaign are children on the move. And we were thinking back then to create a tool that could be appealing for children to tell their stories. So back then we were exploring different ideas, and we were thinking that an IT solution will encourage them to use a web tool and to use technologies to go through their stories. So that's why we develop an app that, as I said, is web-based, and we were thinking to have this app as a support for children to share their story. We were developing an app on really encouraging the children to use more visual and to really visualize the story, because we are talking about children that are moving from their country of origin and to a destination country. And so what we were thinking back then was to visualize the route, because the story actually is on the map. We try to overcome in this way the problem of the languages by use only a visual app. The app, of course, has to be used together with a psychologist or a social workers, because we want the children they move to go through their stories, but also to offer support them by going through the stories. Voila, that's why I put this picture to give you an idea of how we see the use of the app. We would like the children to be in front of the computer using directly the app, but having the social worker of the psychologist close to them to help them on this process. The idea is really to have an exchange with the child through the app and to go through the different experience and process them in a way that can be also a game. Of course, I know it's a bit pushing too much, but that was the idea also. That was also a pleasure to use the app and to use it as a gaming experience. As I thought, it was conceived to be used in a broader, like case management system, where the child participation is just a part of the process, and also to in the vision to visualize a trip to a better life. Of course, as I say, they go through risk and difficulties, but they can also see and have a geographical orientation, where they arrive, where they come from, and also where they are and where they want to go. Also, I want to share with you the idea of having all these stories on the map. It was also an idea to have all these insights as a database for advocacy, and then to translate the children's stories into a policy messages, and to address him to the right person that can make this change happen and change the policy for children that move. So, how works this app game? It's time to go directly to the app and show to you how it works. Please, Caterina. Thanks. So once you have logged in by using username password, I say you, by saying you, I intend psychologists or social workers, staff, partner staff in the field. They will just enter like username and password to enter into the app. And after that, the app is dedicated to the children that are on the move. I will use the story of Farah to give you a realistic example and a real story. Farah is actually a young Somali refugee now in Malta, with the status of refugee in Malta. He became, during the last 2 years, a sort of face of the campaign and a kind of ambassador. He just wrote a book, and actually it's really related also to this app. It's called Never Arrive. He launched it last month. And I will start by using his name, because when you enter, once you log in and you give the computer to the child or youth, you get right there, what's your nickname? So nickname, why we say nickname? Because of course the app should be used in anonymity to respect and to protect the children that are using the app. So I will use the name of our app anyway, because he gave me the consent to use this story as an example. So then you have directly, once you have write the name, the child has write his or her name, you can click on the button, nice to meet you. You get another question, where are you from, Farah? And I will write Somalia, that's the country where Farah comes from. One final question, and it's about the length of the journey. We have, of course, on the map we will have an idea of the kilometers, so of the length of the path, but we don't have an idea how long did it take. So that's why last question we asked how long was, and we will put 9 months to give an answer. Now you see, you get the bottom shaking, so let's create your journey, and we are ready to go on the map. So on the map, of course, I'm sorry, I will use the route from Africa to Europe, but we can do it in all countries and in all continents. I will start going to Somalia because Farah is coming from Somalia. So I will just take a point. I'm not very, I would say, close to Mogadishu. And as you can see, the only colored icon is the red one, the one meaning home. We put home to describe where the country of origin. So I will put it here, and once I release it, I get also the possibility to give some more information about this icon. And the idea is to say, for example, I was born in Somalia. The war started, and we decide to move. Oops, sorry for the typos. To move to Kenya. That's the second part of our journey. As you can see, the child can decide or not to fill more information. Of course, it will be nice to try to get to ask some question and to help the child remember or give some insight. But of course, it depends. It's more in your role as psychologists and social workers. You know better than me, and you will respect the child protection framework. So they can write or not, and when they write something down, you can see all the buttons that are available are shaking to help. So start my journey, we can start the journey, and all the other icons became colorful, so they can be used. The icons that will help you to draw the path and the route are the blue one. The green one are the one giving you some insights, positive one on the journey, while the red one are the risks these children pass through. So next steps, we have to go to Kenya. So I will describe this part on foot because actually Farah told us that he was going on foot from Somalia to Kenya, and it was a dangerous trip. What we have more, for example, that he took so long, of course, because it was on foot. I will add another, and is when he arrived to South Sudan. On this, to go a bit farther, I will not write on every balloon. I just try to give you an overview of this app. And he crossed actually alone. While he was going to Somalia, from Somalia to Kenya, he was accompanied by his mother that could protect him. So from Kenya, he decided to move for gender reason, and he decided to move alone at the age of 12 from Kenya to Sudan. So actually what we know about this story is that I moved alone from Kenya to Sudan. I was only 12. Voila. So there actually is when he became really a child on the move, and in a kind start his trip alone. Actually, he said, for example, on this trip that it was in danger here because he was arrested by the militia. So we know about this trip that he was traveling by public transportation and he was put in danger because of the militia. Then he went through the desert, and almost all the trip on the desert was on foot till Libya. And what we know about this part of the trip is that he received some help on the trip, and I received some help. And he told us, for example, that he was having water during the trip on different places, that different women were helping him to survive in a way in the desert. So we can put it more than one. Voila. In Libya, he had the most difficult part of the trip, we have to say, and he reached the coast, always on foot, where he left the country, and he said there's a lot of children on the move, of migrants coming from Libya, that this country is hell. And what we know more about the story is also that he was put in jail different times, so he was experienced detention during this trip. So once he arrived on the coast of Libya, he took a boat and he went to Malta. So I'm trying to get close because Malta is very small. So both to Malta. It was a very dangerous trip, and but he succeeded, and he reached Malta in 2014, if I'm not wrong. So you were rescued by the Marine, and when he was 100 kilometers from the coast, and now Farah is here. So I use this icon that means where you are at the moment, and I can say I live in Malta at the moment. What we know more, so actually in this way we capture where it come from and where it is in a kind of process, but we also know where you want to go. So the reflection is also what is his plan or her plan, and where they come from and where they want to go. And from these stories I can close it by saying that he would like, so his dream is to go to Sweden. So I will take this. So one day I would like to move to Sweden. So that's the final destination, at least the destination to a better life that Farah has for himself. Now I have a chat. Sorry, I will close this test by putting end. So by clicking on end, I finish the story, and I see if hi. So I don't know if you lost my connection, and that's why I stopped. I don't know if you were following the app. I hope so.
Yes, we were, Elisa. Yes.
Okay, I was lost, like, oh, I was talking without having the app in the background. So at the end, we give a positive message to the guy or a girl, and we say, you are a true hero, you passed through, and we give the number of kilometers they were traveling. And at that stage, they can have different steps. They can either publish the story online, so that means that will appear on the website dedicated to this app that at the moment is, of course, in a test mode, so it's not public. Or he can go back and edit the story again because he wants to change, or something else is coming to his or her mind and he wants to do some amendments. So the presentation of the app is finished in a way. Thank you for your attention. What I want to add before I give the floor to your questions is that, of course, this is like a first development of the app. We developed it with the background information I tried to share with you. I would like to have your feedback because you are working in the field, and I'm more like Hokani has presented, the communication and IT person. And so I would like to have your feedback also to improve and to see how to use it, having your inputs. So thank you, and I give the floors to the questions. And
thank you very much, Elisa. I can see questions coming, so I think I will read them for you, and then you can answer. So the first question is, if you choose to share your story, can you also see the stories of other children?
Yes, of course. The idea is to share your stories and also to see the other stories. They are all collected on the same platforms, and yeah, they will be published, all of them, if they decide to go online, public.
Okay, thank you. And how do you know if the story behind is a reality and not a product of imagination?
I don't know. There are some tests. I think it's not the most important things. The app was created to give them a visual tool and to process their stories. And I think it's the ability of the social worker and psychologists to get if it's true or not. And it's not, the aim of the app to test if it's true or false, the story.
Okay, I see. Thank you. And there's one more question from Blerta. She says the application looks very interesting, but are there any limitations to it, such as age of the person, level of literacy, internet connection, and any other?
Good question. Also, the previous one was very good question. No, there is no limitation in the number of days. So it's an online tool. It's not expiring. Children can go back at every moment to change, amend, change the route, the thoughts, the writing, whatever. So that there is no limitation. Then I forgot compile. Sorry, I lost it. It was a long story. So you mean about web and so on? That's a really good question. When we developed the app, we were thinking that anyway the connection, Wi-Fi, web were spreading around. I know in some places the connection is less powerful than others, but we were thinking that was not a roadblock. I got a lot of inputs on the development because, of course, what I was saying is like we start a while ago, then we checked with different social workers, with different partners, with different member organizations, and I got a lot of different inputs also from different positions. And I also get the inputs to have it on mobile and not web-based, and use different technologies. But for the moment being, where we stop on the development is a web-based. Yes, you need a connection, so there is a limitation if you don't have a good connection. It's based on Google Maps, actually. If you are able to access to Google Maps, it means that your connection is enough. But there is not an offline version at the moment, because it's really based on a real map that is given by Google. I don't know.
Great. Yeah, great, Elisa. Thank you very much. There is a question on how to create an account, how to use this application.
Yeah, something that I forgot to say at the end of my presentation is that we develop a technical guide how to use it, and with an introduction, as I was saying, on child protection, of course, or the child protection system we have in practice on the field. As I said, the child cannot use the app alone, has to be accompanied for different reasons by a psychologist or a social worker. So if some of you is interested, they just contacted me and we can give username and password. It's by request, actually. For security reason, can be auto-generated by the app.
Clear, thank you. And can children compile their stories over a number of days, like come and edit it later?
Yeah. As I said, of course we know that maybe the first time they are afraid to put information, or they're ashamed, or they don't feel confident with the app. So there is no limitation. They can change they can just ask the staff, enter again in the app and change. There is no limitation on time.
Okay, I see. And I think you mentioned that they don't have to provide their name. Is it correct? There is a question, can you identify the child, or is it anonymous? What if child does not want to be identified but wants just to be able to communicate in case of help?
No, exactly. It's a must, the anonymity, and that's why we ask the first question. It's what's your nickname? It's not what's your name, and that should be a reflection for everybody. So for the social worker and psychologist, or for the child, that they don't need to give the real name. Of course, there will be a problem of protection of the data anyway, but the name, of course, should be not seen on the screen.
Yes.
Yeah, I want to add something when the person was saying if they share a story, if they can have access to the other stories. At the moment, there are a few stories, they are real, but they are tests in a way. In the future, of course, the development, we would like to have a different story for different regions, and the idea, the three-step in a way of the development of the app. So the first, as I said, was as a call to action and to give a support to children to tell their stories. Then there is a second step to collect these stories and transform them in a political and policy messages addressed to stakeholders. And actually it's also on another act of the Destination campaign, that is actually to create awareness, because once we go online and we have different stories, we would like also not only for the children to understand what's the story of others, child on the move, but also for the general public, into bracket, that they can go through the stories, see on the map the different routes of children, and see what risk they went through. And I hope they will support the campaign, these changes in policy.
Okay, thank you. And I think there are a few follow-up questions on the limitations, and people are asking to give a bit more information on age and language limitations.
Thanks, I forgot before to reply. So, age, actually, as far as they are in our project, there is no limitation on age, in the sense that I think the app covered the age of the children youth in our project, so there is no other, there is no limitation in the app itself. And languages. As I told you at the beginning, we were trying to overcome the languages roadblock by using icons and by being very intuitive and child-friendly. Of course, the child can write on the balloon in their own languages, and it's up to the staff to translate it in French. It's actually the languages of our platforms, at least at the level of advocacy and awareness. So the idea is, and I didn't show you that part, but of course you have access to the back end. Once you finish, you can go back to the story. You have two kind of possibility. You can work again on the story on the map, or you can work the story on a web page where you have for every balloon the possibility to add the translation, and that's up to the staff, of course. Did I forgot some answers?
I think it's fine, thank you. We have one more question. I know you mentioned you're still in the testing phase of the application, if it's correct, because the question is what your impressions are so far, if children are interested and do they want to share their stories?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what I was saying is like at the moment was not adopted, if not only some partners adopted, so I will say it's not en route. That's why I say it's a testing phase, because it was released and I'm presenting the app to different actors, like in this webinar. I'm collecting feedback that go in all directions, and that's why I see it as a testing phase, because we would like to have a test in the field and have feedback, of course, also from children. Do they like or not? From my experience in the field, for example, when I was visiting the Faro project in Sicily, as they have like an orientation, geographical orientation courses or support, because they are, after the sea they feel lost. I was thinking, for example, can be very helpful. Then I discuss and with different actors in the field, they really see this app as part of a broader case management, for example. So the idea is to have the feedback from people working in project, if they see the room to use it, and then to collect feedback and to see, and maybe also go for a second phase of development, because every time I present the app, I get also a list of comments on how could develop these things or this other feature, or why we didn't think about that, and so on. So I think after this first testing phase, we are also open to develop the app in a different way.
There is an interesting comment from Stephanie that it would be useful to have a bubble at the beginning with the age of the child. Have you considered that?
No, it's possible to be added, and actually I was not thinking so much in boxes, because there is the possibility for the child in different places to add more information, as I was doing as a test with you. For example, by adding the age of Farah when he left, or the age he has right now because he moved for 9 months and things like that. And at the end, before publishing it, you have also the possibility to have a summary of the story. So on that part, I've foreseen, for example, to have a paragraph where the child, the staff is writing that the child has a certain age that went through it. So you can also, this wrap up of the story. And the wrap up, it's another functionality that you have on the online platform. So on the platform that collects all the stories online, where you can click on the stories, and as I was saying before, you can see the story on the map, and you can have also a web page, and this also like linked to this create awareness and also give access to journalists or communication person to have stories and to create awareness.
Thank you. And would this app be available to children on the move to Northern America from Central America?
Of course, I would like to.
So there are no geographical limitations.
No, that's why I was saying, I'm sorry, but we are a bit Eurocentric sometimes, so at least I know this path more. And I had this story, it was just a text, but as a test, but as I was saying at the beginning, it was just, I had to choose one continent. But of course, we would like to have story from all over the world.
Okay, and there's one more technical question from Stephanie. How can workers login account they can use with their children?
As I said, the account is just, you will have an account just sending an email on the mail that you can see on the screen. So this info@destinationunknown.org, or by writing me an email, elisa.buccolini@terdesome.org. And we create account for staff and project, and then once you enter, you have also access to the story that was entered by other children, and you can modify it. So the idea is when you enter, you just get into the first screen, what I share with you, the first question, or you get an option to modify all their stories that was submitted to the app. I don't know if I answered to the question.
I think so. Stephanie, if you need more information on this, please let us know in the chat. And Blerda is checking if they can use the application in Albania, and I understood there are no limitations in terms of geography, and they can use it in Albania. Is it correct?
Yeah. And he's welcome to use it.
Great. And Katerina has just put your email in the chat. So if any of you are interested in contacting Elisa, this is her email. And also you now can see the final poll on the screen where we ask you to evaluate the webinar. If you have any final questions now, please do write in the chat. And thank you, Lisa, very much. It was very interesting. We followed the journey with a lot of interest. Thank you very much.
Thank to you. And I'm very glad of this interest also of the public. And yeah, I really invite you to come back to me, and with pleasure I will ask to your question and we can go further. Of course, there is another part of the app I didn't show, like the back end or other functionalities, because it was more like on the use of the app for a child. There is another part that we can go through in another moment. But you can come back to me for question related to the app or in general to the Destination Unknown campaign as campaign communication coordinator.
Thank you. And also, we as a Child Protection Hub, we will be having more webinars on different child protection topics, including on a refugee and migration crisis. So keep an eye on our webinar page on the website. And I wish you all a very nice day, and goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.